Thank you, everyone, for welcoming me in this beautiful community. You can sense, you can vibrate, you can feel the love all around you and in every one of you. I feel so honored to be invited here. Again, Reverend Newson, thank you so much for your invitation and your trust. This morning I spoke, and I just want to thank the choir and everyone who actually heard my story this morning to have to hear it again. So thank you for your patience and your blessings. As I said, as Ravana said earlier, I worked a lot in diplomacy at the European Union. I had a very flamboyant career, that anything everyone could hope so, but I've had a rough childhood without my parents. They sent us in a very fancy all-girls school, boarding school, and so my childhood was without parents, and then I put myself through college after their divorce. I felt with that courage of going on. I was just driven by life and by energy. I just wanted to be. I have two sisters, and they left in another city, and I found myself alone in a city like DC. And I said, okay, everybody has forgotten me. I was all by myself in a city, late teens, in college. And I said, everybody's forgotten me, but I'm going to show the world who I am. That I'm somebody. And I put myself through college, and after that I had the big chance to work at the Royal Thailand Embassy, met queens and kings, ambassadors, and that was my life. But so professionally, everything was fantastic. Relationship-wise, it was a fiasco. It never, ever worked well. Eventually, in between career, I went into the ministry, took a furlough time, went in the south of France near Switzerland, went to the seminary, became a minister. I'm also a reverend. Became a minister, spoke around Europe, and so that was really my life. Just being with people that needed to feel God's love, Christ's compassion. We created all kind of good work around us, and I felt I was in my element. Finally found love, and also through Christ, through Jesus, I had found love. And God's love. I felt that He had come to show me how God's love, the Father's love, and I expanded, and I wanted to give. I was so filled with it that I wanted to give back to everyone in the church. So I had a radio program, so I was a kind of a little bit. So that happened. Divorce came again came from my first husband. So my ministry came to a stop. And I was crushed because that was really what I wanted to do. I wanted to be that vessel, like you're all so nicely singing, that vessel of love to give to others. And so that came to an end. And I was forced to go back to work in the secular world. And because of my diplomatic field, I was able to find something in the European Union, in the #1 Scandinavian lobby at the European Union. So my life is again, career-wise, no problem. After that, a few years later, I moved to the US. I met an American man. I moved here thinking, this is it. That's happiness. We are going to have a wonderful life together. And it just turned to be the opposite. He was not what he was pretending to be, and to give you a picture, his three sisters, his parents helped my daughter and I, who is amazing. She's here somewhere. Thank you for coming, Eloise, over there, and help us out of the marriage. And we find ourselves on our own in a country where we didn't know a soul. I knew one person, actually. I had met her in a park. She was a single mother as well, fleeing also an abusive relationship. So she helped me find a place, an apartment, and I started my life. I knew my professional strengths, so I found a new job in public diplomacy here, and then shifted to Cisco, the IT industry. because I didn't have to travel and I could stay and raise my amazing, beautiful daughter. So all those events of life brought me, culminated to the fact that I had lived 3 lives in one and lived so many things, and I just realized inside my body that actually my body and my emotional state was running out of energy. The energy of life that we have here, we all come on earth with that energy in us to keep going, even though it's difficult, we keep going, because we have that energy of life in us that actually nurture our body and our soul. But that had come to the end. I had come to the end of my battery of life, and I was explaining this morning, that Duracell ad where you see that rabbit running and then slowing down, and so that's how I felt. I had no feeling of suicidal thoughts at all. I've never been a suicidal person, but I felt that it was the end of my energy of life. I couldn't function anymore, and simultaneously, I was developing physically severe arrhythmia and went to see the cardiologist, who gave me some medication in case of crisis. The medication was too strong, and at the same time, I'm not going to blame the cardiologist, at the same time, I don't know what I was thinking, but as soon as I didn't want to have those crises, because I don't know if anyone here had them, but your heart races and you cannot control it, and it just, you feel like you're going to die literally. So I took those medications sometimes when I felt tonight I want to have a peaceful evening, and I didn't realize that if your heart is not racing and you're taking a medication that actually slows down your heart, something can happen. And so that's what happened. I had 2 near-death experiences. I had 2 near-death experiences in 1 month. I will go to the next one, but very briefly tell you that the first one, I had 2 angels waiting for me, 2 beings of light, and they took me back home. This was not the heaven that I saw after. It was like an in-between place where beings of light came to welcome me and tried to encourage me, probably giving energy for me to come back on earth. It did not, yes. So it didn't work out for me to be completely happy again and on track. So the same month, about 3 weeks later, I had that supernatural feeling that I was going to die. I knew that I was going to die. I knew that I knew that I knew. And this is the only feeling I've ever felt like that actually I knew I'm going to die, and I'm totally at peace with it. And I felt just no problem. I was preparing the time I would leave. And as I was saying earlier, I was putting pajamas at night. I bought some pajamas and some fancy clothes because I wanted the person that would find me to find me decently dressed. So I always liked nice things. So it was just, my sister reminded me that because we were talking about that. I had called her actually and told her, Mimi, I am dying. I'm going to die, but don't you worry. I'm all okay. And which would make no sense, and that's why I was okay, because I loved thoroughly my daughter. She's really an amazing human being. And, but it was almost like heaven, God, the light, had actually given me the peace to move to my next journey. And so here I was, just going to my normal day-to-day life and reading some books. And at that night, I was actually, it was late afternoon, early evening. I was reading my book, and suddenly, I'm right there reading that book, and it's so simple and fast as it was. One moment, I was reading that book, laying on the sofa reading. instantly, I feel my organ shutting, and at the same time, I'm in the light. Death in itself is not painful, it's before, but the transition is actually not painful at all. Many experiencers have mentioned that. It's not, if you fall from a cliff, you're out of your body before you reach the ground. The transition itself is not painful at all. So here I was, one moment home, the next moment in pure light. The light of all creation, the light that was actually all loving, all knowing. I was light, that light that was all loving, and I was love. That's why I love this community. When you say, I am love, I know because I experienced it for real in the realm of God, of heaven. And so I was basking in it. You know, on earth, even though we try to be happy, we always have all kind of feeling of pain, shame, fear. In that light, there was no fear, no shame, no guilt, no regret, no remorse. It was pure happiness and pure joy. And when I say joy and happiness, I try to bring you with me. It was the highest of the highest level that you could ever experience. Put all the millions of joy on this earth and happiness in one, and it's still not enough to describe how that place, how happy that place is. And I just was basking in that. And as I was in that moment, enjoying that, all pain or all negative emotion was non-existent at all. It wasn't part of that world. Suddenly, from a distance, I see a being of light coming. And that being is filled with light. As I can express the best is when you look at a flame moving along there, it was the same, and that's what I always say, it's like a flame, but it was light. And that light was moving, it had two arms and legs, kind of, and a big round face, and it was pure light. And it looked at me, and it came towards me. In that light, that being was even brighter. And that being just starting to hover above me. And it was just, the face was just like a pure light. And kind of eyes that were showing. But he was looking at me, whirling around me, and looking at me with the most amazing look of admiration, and saying, wow, she is so beautiful. She's mine, she's actually, and that's how all of us are actually treated on that other realm. We all treated like that amazing gift that if we were the only one existing, it would be the most brilliant thing that happened. And that being was just like that and looking around, and its energy was merging kind of with mine, moving in and out, and was just wrapping me, engulfing me with love. I felt held by love itself, pure love, the love that actually cares. I felt the goodness of that being. I felt the tenderness. I felt, but it was mainly the goodness, the gentleness, but the goodness and the affection. I felt the affection of that being on me, like I was that child. You know, like a mother who has a young baby, and they take that baby and then kiss that baby everywhere. And that's what that being was doing to me in a pure way, kissing my face all over, and it was holding me. And as soon as it held me and wrapped me with the love, I was instantly downloaded. This is Jesus. There is no doubt in heaven. Some people tell me, well, why did you know it was Jesus? It would have been another being pretending to be Christ, to be Jesus. But, you know, in heaven there is no doubt. Is for earth. Doubt is another stressful emotion. There is nothing of that over there. Everything is sure, everything is certain, because everything is peace and everything is unconditional love. And I knew that it was Christ. And Christ was both male and female in one unit. And I had never felt, I said that earlier, never felt that ever in my life, because here on earth we are male and female energy, and I felt both in one unit. It was a she and a he in one. And when he wrapped me, I felt completely safe. Nothing ever could happen to me, because I was in the arms of my ideal parents. Not the one on earth. My ideal parents. The love and the shower. And at that moment, feeling all that, the love, the care, I felt like I'm home. This is home. And I just communicating to Jesus that I didn't want to come back on earth. And you know, it's, I was explaining earlier, it's over there you don't communicate with words. We would say telepathically, but I would go even further and saying it's from knowing to knowing. You know the person, you know the feeling, you know what the person means, and you receive it instantly. It's all instant. And so I told Jesus that I didn't want to come back. I was in another bad relationship on earth, and I wanted to stay home where it is safe. And at that time, Jesus shifted in the air and became more solid, kind of, but still ethereal looking. And he opened a big screen in the light. So you have the light, but then you still have that screen that was more brilliant. Jesus was more brilliant than the light. And there was a yes and a no, like, you know, the survey that have you been satisfied about, about your product. And he was there, and then he ticked on the no. And then he said, you have to say no. No to the relationship. And when I asked why was it so difficult, and Steve was, it's another name, Steve was so mean, he said because Steve had decided to experience his earthly life with his mind, primarily. I had decided to experience my earthly life through my heart. And it didn't mean that I was such a wonderful person and so much better than Steve because I was choosing the art. It was just two different experiences that we were doing on earth, and the two would not match. And that's why it wasn't going to work. So I asked all kind of many questions and about my life, personal, more personal. So at some point, and I'll just quickly say that, I also asked why we are racist, why racism exists on earth, and Jesus said that it's because of self-centeredness. We want things that remind us of us, not in a condemning way, but it's more like we want to relate to people that look like us, and if it doesn't, we have a fear or we feel threatened because our point of focus is me, me, me. And so when we can get out of that. After that, we did go, he came back here, and we walked through outside the lights. it looks for me that the light was, it's like an intermediary place that actually brings you to home, for me, from my experience. And when I proceeded outside of the light, I saw a huge city of light, what I call crystal city or celestial city. And I saw that city which had huge buildings and made of the glory. I mean, it was like God was everywhere. It was not on one focus. Everything there is everywhere. God is everywhere. It's in us, in everything. We beam light over there. Beings of light there beamed light, lights of love. And so I actually made my way, but as I was making my way, I felt that there was somebody walking towards my left, my right, and I looked back and there were dozens of angels, young angels, and they actually looked at me and felt it was very normal to have me over there. I wasn't a big shot. But then they looked at Jesus and they beamed, filled with lights of one of them, and they all went into his arm. And when they went into his arm, Jesus said to them, with lots of love, "It's Yvonne's moment. Go back to your teacher's mother figure." And when they went back, I saw the most beautiful angels, female angels. They looked at me and they said, "Yvonne," and they could say that to all of us. They said, "Yvonne, we love you. You are one of us. You are with us. We are your family. We will never harm you. We will never hurt you. You belong with us." When I felt that, I just wanted to stay. I negotiated with Jesus to stay on earth. I said my body was broken beyond repair on earth, and I wanted to, I just didn't want to go back there. I said, "Jesus, I want to stay with you. This is home. This is home." And instead of that, he shifted in the air. And we were in a space, like a velvetly black place, and he took the dimension, he expanded like half a mile high. Imagine the universe without star, and that being with field of light, field of energy. At this point, he had become Christ, the portal of God's love. He was a portal. He was a portal of God. I could sense God's love through that portal of love. He was beams of light, a huge hologram, a solid one. And he looked at me and he said, "Yvonne, I will give you my strength," meaning to go back. Because I didn't want to go back. I thought Earth was a horrible place where people were mean and selfish. I just said, I don't want to go back there. So he had to give me the strength because I couldn't on my own. I was beyond exhaustion. I tried everything and nothing was working. And he said, "Yvonne, I'm going to give you my strength. I will give you my energy of life." And when he said that, he filled me with an effervescent energy that was actually coming into me. It was a liquid energy, but effervescent, but dry at the same time. It was filled with light. It was sparkling. And it just filled my entire spirit and my entire body on earth. And I felt totally regenerated. It filled my bones, my nerves, my everything. I have my proton unit, everything I was. And like a renewal of DNA with his life, his energy. And then he said, after that moment, he said, "Yvonne, I love humanity." He even said, "I love all my babies." He said it. And he said, and then I was thinking, well, because you still have your mind in heaven, you're just not that soul that doesn't remember anything. So you have the mind to think. And I said, well, this is Jesus. He came on earth to show us God's love, to be the manifestation so we could be that. We can remember. We cannot be that. We can remember that we are that. We are the love. And so he said, I will show you how I love. And when he said that, it took my heart and placed my heart into his heart. And it was not the Jesus of one denomination, one church, one anything. It was the Christ of love, okay? And when he did that, it took my heart, blended my heart with his. Like when you have a smoothie, we blended together. He was me, I was him. We merged together as one. Complete oneness. I was Christ. He wanted me to be him because he wanted me to understand the immense love and what he was trying to convey to me. And I said in the first period, the first service, I said to Newson, it's like if I meet Newson in heaven and I want to know what was his life or if he wants to know what was my life. In that level, every one of us can merge and become one being for a few minutes and demerge. And I could ask, what was your life on earth? And I can ask, can I merge with you? And then if he says yes, we merge and become one person and become Reverend Newson so that I can feel and have all the memories of his life on earth. And that's the perfect oneness, is to be really one, be the other person, be one. And I felt that oneness. And actually, that's the only portion that I cannot put with words, because there is no words on this plane. It's the immense millions and trillions of powerful emotions of love, compassion, forgiveness, even beyond forgiveness, because forgiveness implies that we have done something bad. Love doesn't think that of you. Love embrace and include. And I felt it all, and that's too long here to explain every emotions, but that's what I felt. And it was time to come back. Here, I felt he just stopped. He became back how he was, and then he just stopped. And I had the understanding that it was my time to be back home here. When you have that experience, it transformed you completely. I experienced the highest reality. Then you come back here in that small body that feels so, you have to shrink back. But you had that expansion of love. We're all amazing expansion of love. We're all knowing beings. Every one of us, and I'll close with that. My experience made me understand that every one of us are heroes on this earth. It's a difficult planet. We came on this planet, and this church is exemplifying. I'm even still in awe that this place exists. I have been in many denominations, but this is where love is celebrated, and it reminds me of home. And we all are here in adversity with all the trauma and everything, but every single one of us are heroes on this place. And I want to encourage you, I think we're all doing an amazing job. Thank you.
Stay up there so they can appreciate you. Back up. So, I want to thank you. This is the second time I've heard this today, but one of the things you do is you transport us into your experience as well as anyone I've ever seen. So we want to also thank you by doing our traditional blessing, which is, if you'll stand with me, we'll give her a blessing. And this is a way of saying to you that all that you said, we want it to be true for us too.
Thank you.
And I'm glad you made it back. Okay, together. We love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the Christ in you. And so it is. Thank you.